The final scene of Act 3 starts with our two lovebirds having just had their secret slumber party and sealed the deal to make their marriage official. We're with them in Juliet's room as they wake up in the morning. So they're talking about how awful it is that it's morning because Romeo, remember, has to get out of Verona before he gets caught because he was already supposed to be gone. So, they're just sitting around talking when the nurse comes running in saying, he's gotta go. Your mom is coming to wake you up. So at that news, Romeo does leave after a very heartfelt and tearful goodbye, and he disappears climbing down the balcony. So obviously newly upset because her husband has just left. When Lady Capulet comes in, she's like, Juliet, you're still crying? And then they have this conversation in which Juliet is very clever and convinces her mom that she's actually talking about her grief over Tybalt, when in reality, Juliet is talking the whole time about her grief over Romeo being banished. So, in order to, cheer her up, as good mothers do, Lady Capulet announces, You're getting married. And Juliet takes one look at her mom and says, Heck no, which shocks her mom and pretend shocks the nurse because obviously the nurse knows about Juliet's secret wedding with Romeo. But Juliet can't really tell her mom that no, I'm actually married to the guy who killed Tybalt, because her mom has just basically said, I'd poison Romeo. I'd have him dead if I saw him again. So Juliet's parents are out to get their son-in-law, who, again, they don't know is their son-in-law. So it's in the midst of this argument with Lady Capulet being like, what do you mean you won't get married? And Juliet shouting at her, I'm not getting married. How could you do this to me? I never want to get married. That Lord Capulet comes in. And remember, he's very excited about his wedding plans, and he has assumed that Juliet is just going to do whatever she's told, because up to this point, she's been a very obedient daughter. They obviously don't know about the secret wedding or the secret sleepover. But anyway, so he comes in and says, How did she take the news? And his wife says, No, she says that she's not getting married. And Lord Capulet at first is completely confused. He goes, What? What do you mean? What do you mean? Didn't you tell her she's getting married? Didn't you tell her she's getting married to Paris? And Lady Capulet says, Yes. And she still says no. So at that moment, Lord Capulet shows us his dark side, and he completely turns on Juliet. Remember how loving and caring he was towards her a couple acts ago? Yeah, that guy is gone. He starts yelling at her, saying, You have to get married. I'm your father. You have to do what I say. And Juliet keeps saying, No, I'm too young. I don't want to. I refuse. So then Lord Capulet gives her an ultimatum. He says, You either marry Paris in 3 days, or you can go live on the streets, and I will not consider you my daughter ever again. This is harsh, and Lady Capulet and the nurse kind of are like, Whoa, isn't that a little harsh? You're a little too upset. And Lord Capulet says, Nope, my word is law. She gets married or she gets kicked out. And he storms out of the room. Juliet turns to her mother and says, Mom, please, take my side. And her mom says, Don't look at me. He's in charge. And she also walks out. So Juliet then looks at her last ally, the nurse, and says, Nurse, what do I do? You know about Romeo. I'm already married. Do I marry Paris and condemn myself for, having two husbands, which is not cool in the eyes of the church? Do I refuse and get thrown out? And the nurse also turns on Juliet and says, I think you're better off marrying Paris because Romeo's gone. He's probably never coming back because the prince probably won't let him come back. So marry Paris and get it over with. And Juliet says, Really? And the nurse says, Really? And leaves. And Juliet's like, Well, if it comes down to that, at least I can kill myself if they try to make me marry Paris.